Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Susan. Sorry, there's a little bit of confusion this morning. Went live on Facebook by accident for a few minutes. So I'm going to slow down just a little bit and give everybody a chance to find us again. So if you're new around here, my name's Jason Meyer, and Morning Jumpstart Student Feedback. We take a look at students' work and we see what's possible for what's next. I try to address each student where they're at, and so sometimes you may hear seemingly different advice, but I'm giving advice to the student based on my understanding of their level. So in order than blowing them away with the ultimate answer, we give them the answer that can most likely get them to the next step. Okay, so this is midweek check-in, and there's Miss Cindy Meyer. Good morning. So we're going to do I've got four, wait, what do I have? We've got 3 drawings and 1 painting to go through today. So, we say we get started. Did we miss any of our show notes? We'll be live tonight at 7. At 7, we move back an hour for Masterworks. And then Masterworks will not be on Fridays. It's only on Mondays and Wednesdays now. Morning Jumpstart, which you're watching now, is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings at 8. And then we have class Zooms on Monday and Friday, so there'll be no morning show those days. All right, well, let's jump over to the iPad and see what we have. Let's see. Swing your partner around and around. There we go, a little do-si-do. Let's get less of that guy in there. All right. So let's just remind everybody of the reference photo we're working off in class, where these are coming from. And again, we're not trying to copy, but we're trying to create. Okay, and one of the things we want to do is we want to have 4 values to express what we're trying to express. A number 1 value, a number 2 value, a number 3 value, and a number 4 value. Let's see. Let's make sure we turn that up a little bit. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 being our white or our highlight. There we go. And then number 2 value will be the tone of our paper, which will be down. The tone of our paper happens to be tan, so it'll be a little bit warm. But the main thing is that it's darker than the highlight. And is that dark enough? Let's go a little bit darker. Okay, that's for sure, because a highlight will jump off of that. And that's usually our light and our color. Then we're going to go down another stop to our gray, our background, our air. And then we want to make sure to separate that from our shadow. And in this 4th step here, that's, I think, where we kind of lost it a little bit, because if you go by the background or the photograph, if you're copying, you might see that and paint that as darker than this. Well, remember, that's not our setup, right? Or even darker than, or darker than, right? Our darks are our darks, our backgrounds are our backgrounds, our lights, our highlights, our highlights. So, with that in mind, let's go back here and see what we've got. And for my mind, we didn't get the shadow and the air separated enough. Okay, you've got some beautiful things happening, some beautiful shapes, some beautiful rhythms, but we need a little more clarity. A little more clarity. Shakti made it this morning. Good morning, Shakti. Good morning, good morning. Okay, so we'll start that clarity with again, getting our darks dark enough. They don't have to be black, but again, there's got to be clear separation from the background to the shadow. Okay, we just want that definite step. So go ahead and find that. This cast shadow I'm going to send down like this. Again, I'm not getting this from copying, but I'm getting this from designing. Too tall. There we go. So like even if this is shadow, any shadow we want to make sure is dark enough. And I think it's a good idea to keep a negative shape there. And that involved, then we can go grape, grape, shadow. Grape is a dark. Oh, and one little thing is, you know, again, sometimes it can seem like it, but we don't want white here, and white here. Right? Because it's kind of making us focus everywhere. And we want to remember the key to making something look round is to get your focus in the middle. Right? And so if we're here, and we're here, we don't know where to look on this thing. And it kind of destroys the form. So pick one of those. And like when I'm setting this grape up, what I'm thinking about when I'm doing this grape, since white is what we see, is I'm thinking where is that highlight and where is that highlight going to be? And I know I want to go this way. That's the movement. And this is not going to help that. So you'll usually do a little bit better if you can get a little negative shape. Like if you move the grape over here, right, or if, even if it overlapped and then cast a little shadow, cast a shadow down here, then we've got a good negative shape we can grab onto. Right, we got to make sure, well, I got a little high there, didn't I? Right, because the floor's down here. So then if that grape, and then if that grape, cast a shadow. Right, if it had a highlight. A little highlight, then this highlight would be there, and what do we got? We've got that movement. Okay, so unless I need, for a particular reason, I really try to avoid lining, especially highlights or colors or edges up like that. Okay, so get rid of all of that, keep one of them, and then make this a more even tone. And I know what you were doing. You were trying to make this come quietly out of that background. But we've got to do that with the tone we pick. Not by gradating. Not by gradating that. So what I mean is, if this is the light, and this is the shadow, and then you don't want this big of a change here, what you're going to do is you're going to make that a bit darker. So that's how we get that to be quieter. And then we can soften the edge, but what we do not want to do too much really is to gradate the light. Right? And then what if we just came in here and instead of white, that was the highlight here. Can you see how then, oh, okay, now that's quiet. Okay, but the main thing is we don't want to be kind of here and then a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, then a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker. Why? Because that's the language of line and drawing. And we're using the language of mass and painting. Okay? All right, what else we got? So I think if you just make sure to separate your shadows from your background, that will go a long way. And then the other thing you might think about is all of this is, which is not bad, but occasionally we might want a little break. So what if that, instead of being right up next to that, again, just step down a little bit further. All right, we got that cast shot. And then there's like a separation. Does that make sense? And the same maybe over here for that leaf. Just, not separate over here in the corner, but just a little space. Right? You got enough yard to do a barbecue. Okay, I hope that helps on that one a bit. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so again, we're going to be looking at another still life drawing. This time will be the reference. All right. All right, Karen. We're going to be getting that landscape in just a minute. Just a minute. Tom's ready to study. He looks like he's an investigator this morning. How's it going, Tom? All right, so here's our reference. So let's see what our next artist did with it. All right. Very good, very good, very good. And I know it's a little bit confusing. I'm telling you to gradate sometimes. I'm telling you to keep it the same sometimes. It will start making sense. It will start making sense in time. But I know at first it's like, well, you said this, and then now you're saying that, and now you're saying that. Again, but if you just watch visually what happens when we do it, it either works or it doesn't work. Right? And that's what you want to, the state you want to get into is, okay, I think this is the solution, but let's do it and see what happens. Let's see here. There's that negative shape I was talking about. A few of those can just sort out this whole mess. Just that they're very, very clarifying. Got a little bit here, and that works pretty well too. Sometimes what it's fun to do, rather than just having these small little triangles, again, if these grapes were moved over just a little bit, what you could have is like a bigger little triangle here if your first grape started here, and then like a little bitty smaller triangle here between the grape on the clementine and the next grape. And so you can have a progression of small, a little bit larger. We're going to take a little break there. And then again, if you wanted, you might have a little bit of a negative space there. Just because it's so descriptive, you don't have to. But so if we're with our triangles, what's our triangles doing? Boom, boom, and then here would be, let's get even bigger, right? And then biggest here. And again, how can we make these little triangles more active? If you have a triangle, well, a few curves, unequal edge or sides, or maybe curves, flats, or little curves and big curves. So again, I'm saying triangle, but I'm not asking you to put an equilateral triangle everywhere. And Susan, I know you know that, but for like right, this would be another really good place that I would think, okay, so what can I do there? So how could I separate that dark? How could I separate that dark? Oops. Forgot to level up. So got to peck here for a second. Peck all this stuff away. Then we'll layer up and won't have this problem. There we go. So, you know, it doesn't always have to be there, but if I have negative shapes, I want to see if they can help me carry the story forward, right? And at first, we think that this is the only thing that does the work. But I assure you, kind of counterintuitively, those negative shapes are more clarifying than any of these little circles. Okay, so play with that idea of negative shapes and see if you can't see that and see these things come to life. So now that we said that, let's get in there with our 4 values and see what that would mean. See what that would mean. But before we do, okay, I'm just kind of looking at the overall, because there's some really nice things happening here. And one of the things I'm seeing that I'm really happy with is look at our light. Starts there, and then here it's going from here to here. And now we're going from here to here. Now we're going from here. You see how that's growing, and we've talked about that? Look, she's even done that there. So I do like that idea. Again, this is kind of high level. What you want to watch, though, is that make sure that this, I think you do, are kind of separate angles. That if we drew a line down the middle here, that angle and that angle aren't equal. Okay, and it doesn't look like you have that. But there does still feel a little bit like, and again, I'm being very persnickety. I'm being hard here because this is a very good artist, and even good artists want to know what's next. Even good artists. But you pick up that straight line right there. So, you know, how could we do that a little bit more? Well, we could take this and inch it up so it's less, right? And then, boom, we can let it go sharper out here. That would be one thing. The other thing to think about is, notice this clementine's light, but it's not making much noise. What you want to do is, you've got all this dark up here, so sneak this, boom, right up there to where that dark's enveloping at least part of that, and then you'll get more power from that little slice. Okay? So, all right, well, let's see. I'm going to try to convey a high-level concept here, and let's see how that works. So, the concept is we have our number 1, we have our number 2, we have our number 3, and we have our number 4. Now, unlike math, I don't mean number 1 is an absolute and it's always the same. Right? So, in order to get away from that concept, we're going to introduce Larry. Larry, Larry, Larry. Okay? And we got Bob is number 2. We've got, who do we've got? We've got Alice is number 3. And who was a bad girl on Falcon Crest or Dynasty or something like that? Who's a bad? I'm trying to think of a bad name. I don't know. Let's just say Sally. I don't know why Sally would be a bad name, but I'm blanking right now. So what happens to Larry, Bob, Alice, and Sally that doesn't happen to the number 1, to the number 2, to the number 3, and the number 4? Well, Larry comes out of the mother's womb, and he's useless. He's useless. He can't feed himself. He just pees and poops all over himself. He throws up on himself. I mean, he can't do nothing. But that's Larry right out of the womb. What if we pick up Larry three years later? What about Larry in his 30s? What about Larry in his 50s? Or his 80s? Okay, so what I'm trying to suggest is that over the path that we're going, whatever that is, that our light, our highlight, and our background can change as long as everybody stays in their lane. In other words, as long as Larry is lighter than Bob, and Bob is lighter than Alice, and Alice is lighter than Sally, right? We can change those a little bit. So, like if I change the Clementine to this, then that gets a little quieter, right? And the other thing we want to try to do, and I know this is a little confusing, but think about your darks, your grapes, as kind of dark silhouettes. And that transparency and stuff is going to be very subtle, right, for the most part. Very, very subtle. But these will read more as silhouettes, and as if they do read more as silhouettes, guess what happens? That negative shape that we talked about gets more visible. Okay, see how that's just a bit quieter? And this is really interesting. She's always putting animals in her things. I love the idea. Boom, boom. Just having a little think here. Just having a little think. So we're gonna silhouette those. We're gonna darken that down. The Clementine, right? It's still lighter than the background, lighter than the dark, darker than the white. So it's still in its lane. Still in its lane. Not trying to take on somebody else's job. So this is a case right here where I've told you that lyric that I like. All these psychics and all these doctors, they're all right and they're all wrong. they're trying to sing along with every word when they should simply hum along. In other words, this should be a hum right here. Just a light. And we can do that by having softer edges, less value difference, and also if we do have a highlight, maybe it's like that instead of that. Okay? And again, if we went back to that, could we go even a little darker than that? For the highlight on the grape here? Well, of course we could. Okay, so just, and I know Susan's going a million miles an hour. Her improvement has just been astronomical, but it's because she's put in the work too. But as you develop this, I want you thinking about those subtle little changes. And as we say that, that would probably go along with the table too. Oops. Seems a little blue to me. I don't know why. But right, if we darken that down, and I know the color's wrong. So let's get something you've already got on here. Yeah. Right, then again, this whole scene, or this whole part over here just gets a little quieter. A little quieter. Okay, then as we come to this section, and this is exactly why it's so important to start with our movements. Because look, you've got some killer things happening here. But are you trying to keep everybody out, Susan? What's going on? This looks like, dude, this looks like the Great Wall of China here. Right, so easily fixable. And again, any one of these things individually, they're doing great. But what I might do is I might take this leaf and stick it over here more thin, like it's leaning down. Right? I like that this leaf is overlapping here. And then I might take that leaf and see if I can't, let's see, I probably would move it this way a little bit. So then you've got that, and then if that grape was just offset a little bit from that, I think all of this is going to be much more interesting. Okay? And then again on that, what I would do, wherever this is I'm going to come up a bit. I'm not meaning to change color. See how this is that's just a little bit more? And that's what we're wanting there, just a little bit more. Okay, and then what that will do is then when we get to this, we can be as bright as we need to be without going so bright that our white won't stand off of it. Okay. And then don't be so, if it's going through air, that's okay. But make sure shadow is shadow. And sometimes as we soften edges and things like that, the shadow can be sucked back into our gray. But make sure whatever shadow is showing Let that show. Right, and you see how that gives it a little more grab? What it does is it gives it more visuality, because as we're gradating our light and our background, if our shadows can be a bit more stable, that's what's going to make things look more constant. Okay? I was trying not to make... I was talking to somebody yesterday, and that right there is the path of the painter. I could have swore I did that. I was consciously trying to do that. And then, somebody else, it's always easier to see other people's work. It's always, and than it is to see your own work. It just is. I'd like to tell you, I'm real special, but yeah, right? You consciously work, and then somebody goes, well, what about that? And it just flips your lid like, oh! It sneaks in there. It's hard to see. It's hard to see. But the longer you do this and the more you start with your big pieces, the longer I paint, the less I look at anything other than the big pieces. And that'll come with time. And again, I'm being a bit hard on Susan here. You're doing a great job, kiddo. But again, I'm just trying to push you because I see so much potential in all of you guys. In every single one of you, I see the potential. And it's just a matter of a little work and time and understanding, and you can get it, right? This isn't something that's magic that you're born with. Sure, a few are more inclined and think in this way and can get it a little faster. But nobody's born with this knowledge, right? So all of you can do it. Okay, well, I think I'm going to leave that there. Happy to come back to it, or Susan, if you have any questions, let me know and we can go over the particular questions. And again, I was being a bit persnickety, but if you look at some of that things, I think it'll, or consider them, it'll improve your images. Okay, and again, I know there's a lot of work, so if you want to, you can move things around and stuff. But for your next one, try to move some of those minor things around and check it out. But only if you have the interest should you completely redo it. And if you do have the interest to completely redo it and try to refine some of those things, it will pay off. It will pay off. But again, sometimes depending on how hard you worked on something, you can kind of get burnt out a little bit. So don't burn out. All right, good job here. Let's see. All right, we're gonna go to what do we call these things? We call these things landscapes. I'm getting in my art brain. I'm losing my talking brain. So there's some things here that I really, really like. And then there's a couple of things that I think as you solve them, it'll make a big difference. And one of those things, this is a little unusual here, because usually we're painting that sun coming here, beating down. So we're used to our lights and shadows acting like that. But here, something different's happening. This is shine. So what that means is that this light will be down on the bottom, and then the shadows will be on top. Okay, it's a little thing, and I know sometimes it looks like both can be happening and stuff, but you always want to refer back to, so for instance, if this was a cloud, and if that was a set of clouds, and then that was a set of clouds, the light would be on the bottom, and I know this isn't going to be exactly right, and then the shadow is going to be up on top. Okay, like that with that sun underneath there. So that's just something to think about, is that underneath lit of the clouds. I particularly love how this was handled. And I say that because I've thrown that thing out a few times, and I've yet had to really figured out what's effective. And one of the things that I think is effective is the rest that you have right there. Right? That's almost like the negative shape. So where on here are we really seeing the boat? Boom, this corner right there, right? A little bit on this end too indicates it. Then this guy indicates a lot, and a big secret to that, and it's going to be hard getting this to the appropriate size, but a big secret, oops, too big. Big secret here is going to be, oops, that's as small as I can go, and that's what I mean with the size, is getting that little negative shape under his arm and his body there that shows him rowing. That's going to be tremendously helpful. Right there. So very, very good. Watch that straight there. Okay, and I have a feeling you were coming back to this, but that just looks like that was done a little bit fast. And again, just even it out a little bit. Something like that. But I would have it taller than these back here. I wouldn't make those equal. Right? I would, again, put this definitely, and it can come down pretty quickly. Right, however you, but let's slow that down just a little bit. Just a little bit. What else we got going on here? Other than that, I'm liking this quite a bit. Oh, you know what? There's one other thing we might have to watch on this. That's feeling a little bit equal to me. Those are feeling a little bit equal. And so you're going to have to choose. And I think naturally that water is going to be a little bit darker and richer. So we could have some color in here. But I think we might have to drop this value just a little bit so that we've got that nice silhouette of the guy rowing out versus the real light up here. Okay, so it's, and as you probably know, it's going to be a balancing act between this and then all of that. So, but you've got a really good start. You've got a really good start. Right, so this is a situation to where the gray is without a doubt separated from the darks. Okay, and then we've got our light and the tone of the paper. So we clearly see right, those four values and how they've worked that, how she's worked that. Right, by the way, I think this is fantastic right here. Whoops. And to a novice, this may look like nothing. But to be able to make those little suggestions, and on top of that, they fade from more to less. Boom, kudos, kudos, kudos. That is very cool. Yummy. It feels velvety. Yeah, if you get those even tones. Right, with those good transitions. And again, why do we focus here well, because this is a slide. And that's a stop. 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 By the way, this stop, stop keeps this from being so abrupt. That's a very nice touch right there. Right? By lightening up just a little bit there, we're able to make out a little more detail with this. Okay. All right, so we'll give just a second if you've got any questions on that. This is so fun right here to me, because in the painting you're gonna get some light and color, and a lot of times like almost cad orange or cad red can be like the first layer or the second layer on your land, and it's literally getting eaten away by the sun. And so now you can't go red, orange, but right as it touches, right in here, you're gonna have some different, and it's gonna get a little warmer and then kind of walk off to your silhouette there. And that's real important because that's part of the glow, right? I mean, this is like how many nuclear bombs, 100 million or something in the sky? I mean, that thing's so powerful. That light is so powerful. Again, that light is so, it's a freaking, it's a star, right? Exploding, nuclear explosions, right? Bigger than our planet, I think. Maybe exaggerating there, but I don't know. It's big. I mean, that light is so strong that it literally eats the land away. It'll eat the land away. Boom. So you can show that, again, without having them focusing here so strong they can't look away. But a little bit of that, right? That's the magic in these sunrises that we're looking for. The magic. All right, good job, good job. Let me say one other thing that could be a little bit tricky here. This also might not be your brightest bright. What? You just finished telling me that was... Yeah, but also we're looking across the surface right now. You see all of this right here, right, is close to the Earth. Do you guys have any idea what's happening on Earth? Where there's all these humans on Earth, right? There's all these humans, and most of them are wearing shoes, and the Earth is all dusty, and they're busting, and this dust is flying in the road. And not only that, these humans, they drive all these cars and everything, spewing things out into the air. And then as they drive by, guess what? Dust is thrown into the air. And then guess what? We've got these big tools and explosions and saws. Guess what that does? That throws all of this stuff in the air. The wind comes by, picks up the sand, throws that in the air. In other words, down here, we're looking through a lot more stuff than when we're looking more up into the sky. As we look up, we're looking at through less and less of kind of this dust that we're all stirring up down here. Now, we're not the only ones. Buffalo stirs up dust. You ever seen a buffalo herd or a bunch of horses running across a plain or anything just all together? If they're really running, there's not hard edges behind them, right? There's this fog of dust. So, all that little story and stick figures, and look at that delivery truck. Woo! That looks like a Mercedes truck, doesn't it? Fancy. Fancy, fancy, fancy. So all that's to say that this may not be quite as bright. And that these clouds back here, we're also looking through a bunch of junk. So it's not going to get lighter and lighter and lighter as we go back here. It's going to become lighter and lighter as we get further away from the horizon. Okay, so these should be your biggest because they're close, right, on that bottom there. Your biggest, but also your brightest. And, you know, I would pick, I think on mine, and I don't remember because I did it pretty quickly, but I think I sent the brightest kind of over here. Again, just so that we're not stacked perfectly on top of that. We want a little asymmetry there. And then if I did that, what I might do is then maybe I skip across here this time and then come back. Right, you see, even this, I want you to meander through those clouds. Right? I mean, I don't think these clouds sit in a warehouse waiting for Amazon to deliver them all stacked up on the shelves, right? That's the difference between manufacturing, between man and nature or vapor. Okay. If you guys aren't familiar with my teachings, I use the term fence builder all the time. And what that means is we have a tendency, unless we think about it, is we're going to make one mark, and then we're going to come by and make a mark and make a mark. Oh my God, this is so relaxing. And then all you've done is made the same mark. You know, even if you come here and change colors, change values, then you come over here and you make the same. Look, it's the same. You just changed it a little. That's not interesting, right? What's interesting is look at that versus that versus that versus that. That variety. Okay, and so that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for, to stay away from fence building and be creative. Balanced asymmetry. Balanced asymmetry. Sue's here too and can't sign in at the moment. All right, Sue, it's a good thing you're here because you are up next. All right, great job on this. I hope some of those suggestions help out. For those of you who don't know, in our classes, we take 1 month to do a painting. We start with a 4-value charcoal compositional drawing and we work out our composition. Then we do a color study in oil paint. And then after the color study, then we begin our painting on a fresh canvas, and then we spend a couple of weeks executing that. In the hopes of rather than just throwing something out there, is really seeing how good can we get this? How good can we get this? One other thing I want to say before we leave this here, I sort of mentioned it earlier, but we do want to watch out for those being the same size. Because this is you've got so much going on here that's really nice. A little bit of symmetry like that could blow it. Now, as you get closer, there's a balance and a piece, and so you may not want it so asymmetrical. But is that halfway? It looks pretty close to me. So you might want to think about, okay, do I want to expand the ocean and stuff and make that bigger? Right? Should I make those mountains come up here and then the gray sky be it, so that all of this is compressed into this space? Right, we could do that because if that sun got moved up here and then we don't want you going off the edge, that's got to be gray, then that means the sun and then all those clouds need to happen in between this space right here. Which is completely doable, but that would give you a lot of unevenness and avoid that center line. The other thing you could do is drop that down, make the sky bigger, right? Maybe the sun comes down to here. And then if that sky's expanded a little bit, now that is going up like that, And now the water by necessity is going to have to be more like that. Okay, just something to think about. And I bring it up because that's a huge part of this painting. A huge part. Now again, with this evenness, one of the things about the evenness is the peacefulness it brings. Right? There's not a lot of tension. So just consider those ideas as you move it around. As you move it around, okay? And you may decide you completely love it like this. You want it very peaceful and almost even. Hey, go for it. Say, no, I thought about it, but I like this mood. That is completely acceptable. Completely acceptable. All right, Miss Sue. Miss Sue. Let's look at some of our history. History. Yeah, I like where you're going with this. I'm liking this quite a bit. Again, I would be careful with too much yellow back here because yellow just comes, at this value, comes screaming forward. Okay, so you could probably gray that off a little bit. And at the same time, this is reading a little high chroma in the blue. Okay, so again, more of a measure than anything else. I like these marks, but I think they would be more effective towards the center of this. What's happening with these is they're causing us to focus on the edge. And I know this is kind of a flat thing, but it's part of a bigger mountain. And metaphorically, we're not here for this edge, but we're here for the meat inside, the meaning, the meat of these symbols, right? The meaning of one generation passing on the knowledge of the ancestors to the next generation. Right? So, and again, you may think about this differently, but it's important to know this. I think just lessening up on that, and although we don't want yellow because that's coming forward or we have to gray it down, let's keep them in the center here. Even if this is flat, we can still suggest it's flat without calling their attention to the edges. By the way, I love how you took these edges out so that that arrow is gone now. Very, very nice. What else do we have here? Hey, there you go, Sue. Wow, big improvement. Good. All right, I hate to put Cindy in the spot, but if she's listening, and Sue, if you have any questions or want to say anything, maybe you could relay those through Cindy. And we can get those answered. The other thing I think we have here is let's separate this color from this color. Right? Even if this is more of a neutral, so I'm saying no yellow. Oops, we got to level up. So what would that no yellow look like? So if we're somewhere in here, all right, so see, that's already a lot brighter than you have, so you've graded off quite a bit. But I think we're going to help you grade off. I'd like you to grade off even a little more. See, that's looking just a little green to me. And it may just be because that yellow's there is causing it to look a little green. Okay. Right, even just knocking it down a little bit more like I'm doing. Not a lot, but and that feels a little more natural. And then I don't know that I would separate these colors so it almost feels like a color change, Sue. So one thing you could do is to make, but I think what I would do is I would take these colors a little more into there. So if we went from yellow kind of over to an orange and a red, see how that just sits back there a little easier? And again, now I'm just kind of smearing it around, and this is acting like a glaze basically. And then what we could do is, if we're going to go a little darker, richer now, right, I feel like we probably went too dark. Yeah, so that's a little closer. So again, you're still going to focus here, but the difference between here and here just isn't quite so great. I think I would close a few of those gaps, right? Not well, just get those gaps a little closer together. A little closer together. And then darker, richer comes forward. So on their skin tone, what I'm going to do is, wherever it ends up, is you know, make sure there's a little bit of color in there. Let that go back. Right, again, that chin goes back. That helps. And I think that will help quite a bit too. And again, then what you want to do to turn those things, not unlike that sun on the mountains, is we're going to go a bit darker and a bit richer. Oops. There we go. And you can give them just a level or two to soften that edge right there as that form turns. Okay, and then the other thing is, if so if I go a little bit lighter and grayer behind them. Okay, so this is subtle here, but look, see how I've gone just slightly more, it's gray, it looks a little more purple. I could use that to really silhouette these guys if I wanted to. Right, so by making that background, again, in between the light and the shadow, these guys could have a little more presence, if you will. Okay, softer edges, warmer glow. Yeah, that's basically, yeah, there you go. Let's see what Sue says. I traded gray blue, and yes, this is good. Okay, perfect. All right. Cindy thinks you're looking good, Sue. I do too. Okay, excellent. Softer edges, warmer glow. Yeah, I think you got it there, Sue. I think you got it. And then, yeah, let's just go there, because I think those are going to make some big changes there. And I'll be anxious to see this again. I know this is a very important piece for Sue, and she's devoted a lot of time and probably more than a few versions of this. So great, great. I'd love to help you see this through to the end, my friend. Okay, everybody, well, look at that. 3 drawings and a painting in an hour. I think that's pretty good. Are you guys pumped up for the day? Ready to go? Feeling beautiful? All right, you got this beauty thing under control? I think you do. I think you do. So I'll be back tonight at 7, not 8, at 7 o'clock for Masterworks. This will be the last Masterworks of this week. We're doing those every Monday, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning for the last morning jump start of this week, because we'll have class on Friday. So I hope to see all of you guys there. Stay beautiful and go create something. Create something beautiful. All right. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Shakti. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Yep, and look, Miss Cindy Meyer. This is why she's the boss right there. Masterworks program, Monday and Wednesday evenings at 7 here on our YouTube channel. Okay, I think that wraps it up. Let's go get creative, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining me. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe even talk your friends into subscribing. That'd help us out.